Hi, I'm Rebecca Rolnick, and welcome to the third and final free sample lesson for Nature Journaling for Ecological Re-Story-ation. I've started to lose my voice a little bit, so you'll have to listen carefully today. In the first two lessons, I showed you how to find your place on the land that you can get to know really deeply. And once you found it, how to start finding the stories that happened there and getting to know the other characters, both human and more than human, that live amongst you. If you've printed out the PDFs and done the activities, maybe you've gotten a taste of how this process can enrich your own life, help you feel more connected, more of a sense of belonging. But does your nature journal practice really make a difference to the wider world? In this time of climate anxiety, species extinction, and habitat loss, it can be so easy to feel helpless and hopeless, like the problems of the world are so big, we can't do anything about them. Well, today I have something really special for you. It's a map that you can use, even if you don't sign up for the full class, to walk through the steps I take my students on, to restore your connection to the natural world and restore the places and ecosystems that we're a part of. And we'll do this by going through the who, what, where, when, how, and why of stories. The first step is to be a story catcher for nature. Get to know the place and who the characters are, as we went over in the first two lessons, beginning with the gratitude for the gifts they share. If you're not listening to the story of nature around you and recording them in your nature journal, there's a good chance no one else is, and those stories are being lost. Conservation scientists and restoration ecologists can't be everywhere at once. You are the world expert on your own backyard. Next, explore where and why. In other words, the setting and the motive. Part of getting a deeper connection with the land means understanding why certain stories have to happen in certain places, and why do certain creatures do what they do? What do they need to survive? Each creature, including us, is part of this web of life. So learn more about the ecology of your place, both from a scientific perspective and from indigenous wisdom. Stories and places are interconnected. In many traditional cultures, stories are tied to certain places in the landscape. So when they see a particular mountain, for example, they're prompted to tell the story about it. An example of this is songlines in Australia. So the story needs the place, and the place needs the story if either of them are going to survive. Next up is when. Stories take place through time. What is the history of your place? 50 years ago? 100 years ago? 1,000 years ago? 1,000,000 years ago? How did it get to be the way it is today? A big problem in restoration is shifting baseline syndrome. Many things have changed for the worse over the past few generations, but we don't always realize, because if we grew up with it, it seems normal to us. So we need to learn from past generations about what a healthy ecosystem is supposed to look like. And to strengthen these connections through time, we can tap into the power of species or places that are part of a cultural heritage that makes them feel really special to people. If, like me, your ancestors came from somewhere else, we can start by honoring, supporting, and respectfully learning from the nature heritage of the original people of the land where we live. But we can also tap into the nature heritage that's a part of our own culture or our own family. And if we're lacking those kinds of cultural connections to nature, we can start a new nature heritage with new traditions. Step 4. After collecting so many stories, it's time to look back and dive into how stories work. You don't want to embellish or make things up, but amplify the real events in a way that makes them feel inspiring, both to you and to other people. You can draw out the parts of the story that are powerful, so it becomes one of those stories that you tell again and again. Think about that family member at a family gathering who's always telling that particular story about something that happened in their life. There are many ways to share your stories, so you can find one that feels comfortable for you. You don't have to share your stories or your nature journal pages if you don't want to, and it's entirely up to you what parts of your stories you share and what parts you keep private. And for the same story, that might change in different situations. You might just want to share with one close friend or family member. You might share them on a blog or with an organization that you're a part of. Maybe you're working on a book of nature writing. Or maybe you're interested in activism, writing letters to the editor, that kind of thing. Or sharing stories with your grandkids or other people in your community. Whatever it is, you can take these stories, these little moments in nature that you might have never even noticed if you weren't doing the process of nature journaling, and elevate them to something that's really meaningful to you. Step 5, future ecological vision. One of the most important roles of stories is that they get us to use our imagination, to listen to somebody else's experience and feel like we lived through it ourselves, even if we weren't there. Stories even allow us to imagine things that haven't even happened yet, because to be able to create the future we want, we first have to imagine it. So once you've gotten to know your place and the characters and the stories that are inextricably tied to the land and the history and heritage, and to tell inspiring stories about all of that, what's coming next in the future? What do you imagine this place to be like? What do you want it to be like to be able to support human and non-human life and well-being for the next 7 generations? And what are the actions that you can take to take steps toward this future? Just as each creature in an ecosystem has a unique niche with unique gifts to share, you have unique gifts to share with your community, to be in reciprocal relationship with the other characters in your stories. Coyote's Guide to Connecting with Nature describes nature journaling as a means of finding your gifts. This feels really different to me from what I've come to think of as abstract environmentalism. The messages that I grew up with, like, go green and you need to save the planet, that's way too big of a burden to carry. How does it feel to think about, how can I give back in gratitude for the gifts I've been given when it comes from being deeply rooted in a specific place with an intimate knowledge of the creatures who live there? Finally, last but not least, celebrate. Celebrate this journey you're on. Celebrate every small step. Look at how far you've come and the ripple effect that your stories are having on the world. As activists or stewards of the planet, we'll never be able to do all that we want to do to help. There's always going to be more that we feel like we should be doing. And we don't always get to see the effects of our actions. So it's really, really important to celebrate and allow ourselves to feel happy about what we can do. Otherwise, we get burned out and discouraged and disillusioned. And I don't say this to brag, but it just feels really inspiring to me that so far my students in this class have been from places as far away from each other as the United States and Canada, to Australia and New Zealand, to Germany and Spain, England and Wales, to the Hawaiian Islands. That's the magic of being able to meet over Zoom, and we all get to learn from each other. we can take care of our piece of earth and support and be supported by others all around the world who are doing the same thing. We're in this together. Our community is really powerful. And if you're watching this, you're already a part of it. So saving the earth is not all on your shoulders, but the earth needs our stories. The earth needs your stories. So if you want to take this map and embark on this journey on your own, go ahead, and I would love to hear your stories if you want to share them with me. But if you want a guide to help you really dive deep into each of these steps and be supported in a community of other nature nerds who are on the same journey with you, who get it, who understand why this nature journal thing is so important to you, new friends who want to listen to your stories and help you grow in a judgment-free zone where you feel heard in a really deep way, and to experience how uplifted and empowered that can make you feel, then you'll need to sign up for the class. It's starting really soon, so I hope you can join us. Click on the link to register, and I'll see you in the class. It's starting really soon, so I hope you can join